Alright guys, welcome back. In this video, we're going to be looking at on our view button option, or after we have added our local new task. Rather, if I click in here, rather than seeing this message, we want to see what tasks we added and so on and so forth. So in here, what I'm going to do is first of all, uncomment this thing, because in the last video I commented out because I didn't have this functionality already built in, which is this button right here, view screen. So in here, what we are doing first is we are assigning a variable called all tasks, and then this is the function that will get all the local storage with this particular table name. And then it check to see, and this is also as part of the awesome function library, it will check to see if this local task has any data. If it does not have any data, it would be less than 1 or equal to 0. Then it's going to say, oops, looks like there are no tasks. You should add one. The reason why we want to do this, we want to make it easier for our users to know if something went wrong. We want to tell them that something went wrong. You need to do X, Y, and Z to correct the problem. And that's just proper programming etiquettes, if that is a statement or phrase. But in my mind, this is a phrase. So I always like to be very mindful of my users when I'm creating applications, and always try to think of what can they do wrong, first of all, and second of all, what they need to do to correct the problem that they're in. So if they are in a screen and then they don't know what to do, then the problem is not on they don't know what to do. Its problem is my problem, because I didn't think of that ahead of time when I was creating my program. So keep that in mind. When you're creating a program, always think of your user. What possible things that your user will need in order for him or her to get out of a screen. Let me rephrase that one more time. Well, let me repeat that one more time. What possible things your user will need in order for him or her to get out of that screen or a screen. Because if the user doesn't know how to get out of the screen, he's going to be stuck. It's like one of those maze. When you're stuck in the maze and you don't know how to get out of it, you're going to be frustrated. And then everybody's going to say, oh, your program sucks. Don't ever use that, or don't use that guy. You don't want to be that guy. You want to be the guy that says, oh, I'm going to hire you because you think of all the different possible scenarios where your person or your user does not get frustrated. You definitely want to be that guy. All right, so that's what this thing does, is it's check to say, hey, is there anything in the local storage? If it's not, then it's going to show a message, hey, there's nothing in the local storage. And then this is just alert as part of the awesome function library. It says, hey, this function takes two parameters, which is the first one is the task, the string, whatever you want to show it, and second one is like 4 different part of the alert, which is part of the bootstrap, which is warning, success, info, and then you can look at the other one when you go to awesomefunctions.com. And then what it does is it's just going to take this task, assign it to D, and then D gets dumped to screen data, and then it shows it. And then what it does, this false, it just halts the JavaScript. It will not go any further. And the reason why I put that in there, because the way that the way that JavaScript operates is that it goes line by line by line. If you don't tell it to stop, it's going to continue on whether or not if the previous line of code has finished or not, which is a good thing and also a bad thing as well. So depending on the situation you are using that particular frame of code or whatever. So let's move on. So in here, next thing what it does is check to see, hey, so if this code does not get run, that means there's something in the local storage. So next thing what I'm doing, and I know it's kind of like ugly, but I took a shortcut. I just kind of I created a table within the JavaScript so it becomes dynamic for me. So I'm using a table. This class is part of the bootstrap. It's called table hover over. So what that does is every time you have your mouse over it, it's going to highlight it and it will cycle through it, all the different rows that you have. So the first row is the line number. The second row is second column, I should say rather, is the task name, date, description, and options. So let's go through it. And then I'm wrapping this local storage part of it, which is all task, into the loop, for loop. And what this check to say, like how many, the length pretty much is, in case you never heard of a for loop or you're not really familiar with it, it's just going to loop through every single object that is in the local storage, or think of it like every single row. If there are 2 rows, it's going to loop through it 2 different times. And then this length thing identifies how many rows there are. And then in here, it says, hey, take that particular table, assign a row number, which is I in this bracket. And then I'm taking the I and adding 1 to it because I at the beginning is 0. And then I'm going to say, hey, create another row. So this top row is just the column names. And then underneath those columns, I'm saying add the line number. So 0 plus 1 becomes number 1. The next time it goes through it, this is going to be 1. 1 plus 1 is 2. Line number 2, so on and so forth. And then what it does, it adds a value, which is the variable here, which is row number. So it's going to say, hey, in row number 1, go to column name, task name, and grab the value for that. And then while you're still on that row number 1, go to column task date and then grab that value. And do the same thing for task description. Great. So that's one row. And in case you're wondering, this particular line of code, this is part of the awesome function library. In case if you want to use the moment date format, you can use it there. But if you don't want to, you just want to display the value as is, you can. But I just made it available for you guys in case you guys have used movement in the past. And I believe it's one of the greatest library out there in terms of date, because you could do all kinds of different things. I mean, literally all kinds. You could format it in all different ways. So in case you want to learn it, you can go to momentjs.com, or you can also go to the awesome functions library under the jQuery, and you will see all the different options that are available to you. All right, moving on. The next thing, what it does, it adds 2 different options. First is called the edit, and this is just a link that's just say, hey, when someone clicks on this link, a hyperlink more like it, and there's a function attached to it, it's called edit. And then what I'm also doing is a record ID, and the record ID, let me go back up here, that we added here, which is just a random code 6-character long hash that we added here. So it's going to grab that record ID and it's going to assign it as part of the hyperlink custom attribute. So this is known as custom attribute. In case you don't know what custom attribute is, normally each hyperlink or each particular element in the JavaScript or in the HTML, it has different attributes. Most of them that are commonly used are called classes, ID, name. Anything other than that, you can call, those are called custom attributes. So in this case, I'm adding a record ID. So what that will do is anytime I click on edit, it's going to go in here, which you will see in the next few future videos, that anytime I click on edit, it's going to go only grab that particular record ID. So if I have, let's say, 10 different lines of rows or 10 different tasks, and I want to grab the 5th one, being that we assigned a very unique record ID, which is this function right here. And every time you use this function, as long as it takes 2 parameters. One is you can add a string if you want to, or if you don't, it's just going to create a random string. And then the length, what I have found during my testing, as long as it's 5 characters or more, it's always going to be random no matter what. You could run this thing through a loop, let's say a million times, whatever, And every single one of those rows or those values are going to be different. I have tested it. Trust me, I know. I tested this thing like a gazillion times. And I also have this particular function running in my live projects. So that's saying a lot. So I'm literally putting where my mouth is at. So I have this running on my live projects on the websites. So that's what this is going to do. It's going to it's going to take the record IDs, whether it be record 5, 4, 6, unique one, only that one, not the one before, the one after that. And then it's going to go and trigger this button, which we haven't looked at it, but we will in the future video. And then same thing happens, same record ID if I want to delete it. But also what I'm doing is I'm also adding the task name, which is part of the local string variable right here. So it's already here. So I'm just grabbing it and saying, hey, give me the task name, call it task name, and that's that. And then what I'm doing here is I'm just adding these two values in the option, as you will see soon. So last thing what I do is I just go to screen data and I'm saying, hey, take the table up above that I created, dump it in screen data div, and then show me the div. That's that. Not bad, right? And in case you're wondering, hey, if I want to get hold of this code or all the future codes that we are going to be using, rather than me writing this thing, can I just copy and paste it? Answer is, of course you can. Click on the link below and you can definitely copy and paste it, include it in your own projects or whatever you want to do with it. So I'm going to save this and then bring up our local storage and refresh this. And then if I click right here, view all tasks, and then voila, there it is. If I click on this right now, it's going to throw an error message because we haven't built that functionality yet. Same thing for delete, but just to show you, let me add another task. If I click on this and call this task 2, and then I'll give this date of, I don't know, December 21st, and I'll call it this is my second task, ... And then I click on save. As I said in the previous video, after I clicked on save, it just gave me a message successfully added. However, now that we build the functionality to show us all the tasks after I click on save, this is what I'm expecting to see is 2 tasks shown right here. So voila. And as I said, and when I create a table, remember I told you about the bootstrap hover effect? You see, if I put my cursor over it, the first line is going to say 1, but like the whole row is selected. So that's that. So in the next video, what we are going to do is we are going to build the functionality of edit and delete. So I will see you in the next video.